Hello, Central Florida, and welcome to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Lumber and Supply. I'm your host, Don Magruder, and you're listening to my 790 AM WLBE in beautiful Leesburg, Florida. Today's show is being seen also on LSTV, that's Lake Sumter Television, courtesy of Red Apples Media, on Comcast 13, Bright House 498, and Florida Cable number 4. Romac Lumber is a leading provider of building materials in Central Florida, and since 1945, local residents have come to depend on Romac Lumber's expertise. With locations in Leesburg, Mount Dora, the Villages, and Ocala, Romac Lumber has Central Florida covered with all their structural component needs for including windows, doors, garage doors, roof trusses, and a full line of building materials. Homeowners insurance is a big deal in the state of Florida because of hurricanes, wildfires, floods, and other man-made events such as water pipes that break, and fires and burglaries. Buying the right insurance and having the correct coverage can be the difference between surviving a disaster or going bankrupt. My special guest today is Angela Taylor, the manager and agent for Frank Slaughter Insurance of Wildwood, Florida. For more than 50 years, the Frank Slaughter Insurance Agency has been serving the Tri-County area, and there are a few people who know more about insurance than Angela Taylor. So with that, I'd like to introduce our guest, Angela Taylor of Frank Slaughter Insurance. Good afternoon, Angela. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Don. Thanks for having me.
We are so glad to have you because insurance is very complicated. It's a big deal for a lot of folks, and we're going to try to walk completely through the subject, especially things that are affecting here in Lake and Sumter County. First off, Angela, take a few moments and tell our listeners about Frank Slaughter Insurance and your relationship to the agency.
Sure. Frank Slaughter Insurance was established in 1964 by my grandfather, Frank. He was a life insurance salesperson and decided to put down roots and go into independent insurance agency route. My dad, Sam, purchased the agency from my granddad back in the late 1990s, and today I'm the office manager. So we've grown up here, we live, work, and play in the community. So
insurance is sort of in your blood, isn't it? Literally.
Yes, it is.
Now, I know a lot of people who will listen to today's show or see it, that they may have questions. How can they contact you? And also, what's your website address?
Sure. Well, our phone number is 352-748-2221. We're there Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5. No appointments needed in our office, so we welcome people to stop in if they wish. Our website is www.frankslaughterinsurance.com.
And once again, where is your office located?
Yes, we are on 301 in 301 in Wildwood, which is also Main Street.
Okay.
We're just about 2 miles from the new Brownwood Villages Center that was just opened.
But you're actually on 301.
We are on 301 in Wildwood.
So that's easy to find. Just if you're coming from Leesburg, you'll go.
We're very close to 44.
Yep, 44. That's great.
Mm-hmm.
The Frank Slaughter Insurance is referred to as an independent trusted choice agency. What does that mean?
Well, an independent insurance agency is independent. We are not held, or I like to say married, to any one particular insurance carrier. We have a variety of contracts, and we are able to offer our customers more options suited to their purpose and need.
Okay, so as an independent agency, you can sell for a host of different companies.
Correct.
Now, how do you determine the worthiness of the companies you sell? For example, I know there's various ratings and such.
Oh, yes. Well, you go by their financial ratings, you go by their reputation, you go by the products and services that they offer. You go as far as to whether or not they have their own host and team of adjusters, so that when we have a catastrophe, our companies have people on the ground.
Now, what are some advantages of selling from an independent agency versus a single insurance company? In other words, you represent a variety of companies instead of just offering one block.
Yeah. Well, it allows me to be more viable. So if we have a catastrophe or a major event and one of the insurance carriers puts a moratorium on and stops writing homeowners, I have other places to help with my customers. If a company pulls out of the state, my business doesn't shut down because I have other companies to work with and keep my customers. I want to remain stable, even if my companies change, even if the insurance industry moves in a different direction, I'm able to stay stable for my customer.
Now, you also carry, I know today's focus is homeowners, but you have a large scope of things you insure.
Mm-hmm.
Won't you briefly talk about the various other items you can insure around the house?
Oh, sure. We do, obviously, the home, we do the autos, we do all the toys. So we can do their golf carts, their motorcycles. We can do even snowmobiles, not that you have those in Florida, watercraft, personal umbrellas, which are very important, and then even their businesses.
You know, a lot of people would argue, make argument that an independent agent may have a tough time competing with some of the big national guys or single company. How do you answer that? Can a Frank Slaughter, locally owned, company's been here for, 80 years?
Well, 51.
51 years.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
But 51 years. How can they compete with some of these big guys?
Well, actually, we have contracts, and I do have some of those big guys you're referring to in my office. So, for example, I'm one of the few independent agents with an Allstate contract. I also have AAA in my office. So it has a lot to do with the agency management and how we work in building relationships with various companies.
So you feel like you have more flexibility because you can offer these varying degrees of service.
Correct. And if one of them makes a drastic change, you know, we have seen Allstate and State Farm put moratoriums on homes. I wasn't affected by that because I had other options for my customers.
You're listening to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Lumber. Our special guest today is Angela Taylor. She's with the Frank Slaughter Insurance Agency, and we're talking about insurance today. And we got a lot to talk about today, and it's going to be some sort of intriguing information. We're around the house, so let's first talk about homeowners insurance. Where can you write homeowner insurance policies here locally, and what do you see as the biggest mistake that most homeowners make when they choose an insurance policy?
Okay. Well, we are licensed in the state of Florida to insure property, to write insurance policies. We tend to stick with the central Florida area because we're most familiar with it, although I do have customers in Tallahassee and I have customers in South Florida because they've stayed with me. The biggest mistake, I think, is when choosing a carrier, a lot of consumers are price driven right now. And I understand that. I understand the budget. I have one. However, the stronger, more established companies with track records are going to charge more. So I'm seeing a lot of people going the cheap route, and you get what you pay for when it comes to insurance.
Now we're going to go into a little bit deeper depth later in the show about Citizens Insurance and other problems with the insurance industry in the state of Florida. But isn't there some real concern growing in the state of Florida? We're one major hurricane away from insurance disaster, and that's the reason why you need to make sure there's a very strongly rated company.
Yes, very much so. We have since 2004, we have a lot of new companies. We have takeout companies. They don't need a whole lot of money to start up in Florida, and they agree to take on a book of business from the state's citizens.
Okay.
It's kind of a gamble. They think if we're in business for 3 or 4 years, we might make a profit. It's truly a gamble. And consumers, unfortunately, get caught up in that. You want a company with a track record. Carriers today have reinsurance, so they try to plan to cover the big one. So they reinsure their own exposure. However, in that, they have layers of reinsurance through the state of Florida, and that can be a problem.
So really, if you're getting a price that's way under the market price, there's probably a good idea that particular company may not be there when you need it.
Well, that or they don't have much of a track record, because you see, as you build as a company, when you start establishing claims, eventually your rates have to go up. Okay. So if you've got a really low price right now, either your carrier is going to be raising rates really soon, or they haven't been around long enough to really get that track record and have mature rates.
One of the biggest services I understand that you offer through the Frank Slaughter Insurance Agency is a review of current policies by homeowners. And talk a minute about this review. And first off, is there any charge to do a review? And then what happens during this review?
Yeah, absolutely no charge for the review. We assist people either over the phone, they can come in, they can email us information. And we have to ask questions. We have to get a clear picture of their situation, what they own, and then we look at our companies as well as what they have with their current company. Many times I see where items are not insured or homes are underinsured or coverage hasn't been explained properly. A lot of people do not understand what they've purchased.
What about insurability? I know that's getting to be a big issue with a lot of homeowners. They're getting calls saying, an insurance company, I'm not going to insure your roof because it's 15 years old. I'm not going to insure this until we get a wind mitigation. Can you help people when they have obstacles like that?
Yes, I mean, what you've just described is pretty much industry standard now.
Yep.
Admitted companies, 15 years or older roof is tough. I have 3 companies where I can do a home age 19, up to 19 years of roof age. After that, they're going to be looking at excess lines until they get that roof updated.
Okay.
But I at least can explain it to them, and I explain the wind mitigation process.
Well, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but maybe you can explain it to them. A lot of people have, like on my roof, they have a 30-year roof.
Yeah.
It's guaranteed for 30 years. It's in good shape.
Yeah.
And you're in year 16, so half the life. What does that mean, that insurance companies won't guarantee a 16-year-old roof that's rated for 30 years, or do you have to pay more? Or what's generally the circumstance?
Well, first off, these rules, this roof age came into play after 2004,
Right.
Because we saw so many roof claims, and it came to where there's a certain age of maintenance. You know, yes, 30-year shingles. However, in Florida, with the weather and the humidity and the sun and things like that, roofs just don't last that long. And so the industry came up with a period of time where they felt roofs stopped losing their effectiveness, and that's what we're faced with. So what happens if I have someone call me with a 17-year-old roof? I explain to them, because of that, I only have 2 or 3 options for you, and at age 19, you're going to get a letter, and they're going to ask you for updates.
And what do you mean by updates?
They're going to ask, when did you get your roof updated? And if it's not updated, at year 20, you may get a non-renewal notice.
Okay.
And that's pretty much standard.
Well, then here's the conflict can be created between the roofing manufacturers and the insurance people, who, if they get a letter from an insurance agency saying their roof's not going to be insured because they feel like it needs to be updated, does that automatically give them claim to make a claim with their insurance with their roofing company? See, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a 30-year shingle, I don't know. I can tell you, they look at metal roofs.
Yep.
I personally have a metal roof.
Uh-huh.
Between 30 and 40 years. They look at that. But the industry, 15 years up to 20.
Okay. This segment of Around the House is sponsored by Romac Lumber Design Center. If you're planning to build, remodel, or put an addition on, first thing you need is a great set of plans that can meet Florida's tough hurricane codes while putting your dreams on paper. This is where the Romac Lumber Design Center can help with their 3D plan drawing technology, plus a showroom where you can actually pick out the products before you buy. For more information on the Romac Lumber Design Center and help in drawing your next set of plans, contact Jeremy Lippum at 352-787-4545. That's 352-787-4545, or stop by the Design Center at 700 East Main Street in Leesburg. Start your next building project off right with a great set of plans from the Romac Lumber Design Center. Let's go through a couple of scenarios, and we're talking with Angela Taylor from the Frank SlaughterInsurance Agency out of Wildwood. Let's go through a couple of scenarios of how people can buy homeowners insurance. Take, for example, you have a person moves in the area from Ohio, and they're buying a pre-owned home and they need insurance. What will they need to do to get covered today?
Well, they'd want to contact an independent insurance agency, of course, to get the best selection. Depending on the age of the home, certain things are needed. Today, companies are requiring something called a 4-point inspection on homes over 30 years of age, 30 to 40. And that's where you are getting a snapshot of the electrical, the plumbing, the roofing, and the HVAC. Those items, along with photos, are required for a company to even consider coverage.
Now, I'm going to let you finish in a minute, but cut you off just a little bit. Do you recommend people, before they actually sign that paperwork to buy that home, have that review done by the insurance carrier?
I would. I would also, I would look at the age of the roof. I would also suggest looking into the flood zone to make sure you're not in the flood zone A before you sign papers.
Okay. So, all right, so someone's buying a house, say it's out around the villages.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's not 30 years old, it's 10 years old.
Right.
What will they need to do to get coverage from your group? Do they come in and fill out an application, or what type of information are you going to require?
Yeah, well, it starts with an interview where I get detail on the home.
Okay.
And I do the work for them, and once we have something that they'd like to take, then it's an application. If they're out of state, we work with them over email, and they can scan documents back to us. If they're local, we love to see them. We like to see our customers in our office.
And at some point, do you go visually look at the home?
Well, the carriers do that.
Okay.
Almost all carriers today will inspect property that they insure within 30 to 45 days of writing.
You mentioned earlier about older homes, ones over 30 years old. Someone's looking to buy an older home. There's a lot of different issues. You talked about the 4-point inspection. Once again, what's the 4 points of the inspection?
Would be the electrical, the roof, the plumbing, and the HVAC.
Now, I know from previous Around the House shows and the column that we do every Saturday in the Daily Commercial, we've done a column, for example, on electrical boxes. You have some electrical boxes that are fire hazards.
Yes.
You have aluminum wire issues. Are those some of the things that you're looking for?
Absolutely.
What about lead? How does lead fall out in these issues? Lead's not an issue with you guys?
Well, I have seen, there are some questions about lead paint.
Right.
If that's what you're talking about, and they do ask, but I've not gotten into that situation.
The reason why I'm saying that, in the last few years, the EPA has changed the lead rules where a house that was built prior to 1978, before any work is done on it, you basically have to do a lead test. I didn't know if the insurance companies had gotten involved in that. So if someone's got an older home, before they buy, they really need to talk to their insurance agents and make sure that they're not being a jam getting it covered.
Right, and ask questions of the realtor. They should know these things. In preparing to sell a home, I'd want to have my 4-point done and my wind mitigation so the buyer would have an easier time.
So you actually say if you're selling an older home, you might as well go ahead and get it done because that will be a major roadblock.
Absolutely. Lots of closings have been postponed or canceled because of the results of those 4 points.
Angela, it's starting to get warm outside. Summer's approaching, and so is hurricane season. What should homeowners and renters be doing right now before the storm strikes? I've been through the eyes of about 5 major hurricanes, and after the hurricane hits, that's the wrong time to figure out you have the wrong insurance.
Yeah, it sure is. This would be the perfect time to get an insurance review. Get your policy out, call your agent, go see them, review it. Ask them, are there coverages I'm missing? Do I have enough coverage? And you can have that conversation. A lot of renters today do not have coverage, and it's very inexpensive. And if they have a loss, all that they own is what's in that apartment building or that rental home, and it's very important to have coverage. But get that insurance policy reviewed. Make sure you have a copy of it with you. Make sure you have a phone number for how to turn in a claim, and keep it with your emergency disaster kit if you have such a thing, so that if you have to leave quickly, you have your insurance.
You mentioned renters insurance, and I'm going to hit on that just a little bit. For example, someone living in an apartment complex or renting a house, the owner is obliged to have insurance on that apartment or housing structure, but the contents they are not. So, for example, if you have a hurricane or a fire, those items are going to be, if something's damaged in your home, you're not going to be covered, are you?
No.
Are there any qualifications when you look at renter's insurance? Is it pretty easy to obtain, or is there hoops that you have to qualify for?
Well, when you call, you do need to have a little information about the structure. An agent needs to know if it's frame or block. If it's an apartment building, they need to know the number of stories as well as the firewalls in the home or in the apartment building. But another aspect of renter's insurance, let's say your neighbor does something careless and causes a fire. Most likely they don't have insurance. They're not going to be able to pay for the damage you have. You kind of have to protect yourself by getting renter's insurance.
And the nice thing about renter's insurance is really not expensive.
Oh,
is it?
goodness, no. It's usually $150 to $200 a year.
So $150 to $200 a year will cover most people in apartments.
Yeah, unless they've got a significant amount of contents, correct.
Okay. If someone called you today, first off, what number would they call?
They would call us at 352-748-2221.
And say they're listening to you and say, Angela, I'd like to have a review of my policy before hurricane season. Mm-hmm. What are you going to be looking for? What specifically will be your concerns as it relates to that particular homeowner?
Well, I would look first at their home's value to make sure it's in line. Because I do see a lot of homes, especially if they've been written for a while, where the home's value is underinsured. I also look to make sure that their scheduled belongings, if they have any jewelry, any collectibles such as firearms, furs, china, that type of stuff is scheduled. Because if it's not scheduled, it's very limited coverage.
Now, I want to stop you there. What does it mean by scheduled?
Scheduled. When you have, in your policy, there are limitations on collectibles.
Okay.
There's a section in it, such as coins, firearms, jewelry, furs, comic books, antiques. Okay, so if you want those items insured properly, in other words, with jewelry, you might have a limitation of $1,000 for theft. If you want full coverage on that piece of jewelry, you need to have it appraised and then added to your homeowner's policy, and that's called scheduling. They do charge more for it.
Okay. So I'll be honest with you, you've told me something I've never heard before. So, for example, if you have firearms and such, mm-hmm. and maybe you have a policy that has $5,000 coverage on firearms or something like that, unless you have it scheduled, though, chances are you may not have coverage.
Well, no, you have limited coverage. So let's say your limit is $5,000.
Okay.
And you have $10,000 in firearms. Okay. And it has to be a theft. But if it just walks off, you have no coverage at all.
Okay, but what I think I'm like probably a lot of people who've gotten confused on is, you buy content coverage and say you buy $150,000 worth of content and you don't check the fine print, and there's mm-hmm. a belief that, hey, if $150,000 worth of merchandise got stolen out of my house, I should be made whole. But you're saying there may be specific exclusions for...
There are limitations.
Okay.
And mysterious disappearance is not covered. So if your wife has a very nice engagement ring, diamond ring, and that stone disappears, it just falls out. Or let's say you had a party, and after the party, certain jewelry was now missing from your home. It's not a burglary. There's no documentation of such. It's not covered because that is mysterious disappearance. There's no coverage unless it's scheduled.
Okay. So it's very important that if you have valuables like that in your home, that you get with your insurance agent. Sort of getting off course. A lot of people want to do business on the internet. They don't think they need an Angela Taylor from a Frank Slaughter Insurance Agency no more. They want to do it all on the internet. But how do you do business, and how do you get that advice, and how do you do the things that we're just talking about this over the internet?
See, that's the thing. You don't have a conversation over the internet. And a lot of times you don't have licensed staff helping you over the internet or even on a 1-800 number. So it's very important to, if you're prone to going that route, I'd at least do a check. Check around to a couple of local agencies and make sure that what this being on the phone or internet's telling you is accurate and that you're being best protected.
Have you had any experiences in which people had internet coverage and they had issues and they were disappointed and came to you because the internet coverage did not provide what they thought? Absolutely.
Now, I will tell you, it's more common for auto insurance on the internet than it is home insurance. But yes, I've had both cases.
And I suspect once again, it's okay to have internet coverage on insurance policies when you have issues when you're buying it, but when you have an actual accident, that phone call to an Angela Taylor helps a lot.
When you need help, you want to go see someone face to face.
Well, you're listening to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Lumber. We're going to take our first break, and when we return, we're going to talk a lot more about homeowners insurance. Plus, we're going to talk about golf car insurance and low-speed vehicle insurance. Got a big topic to talk about. See you in a few minutes. Welcome back to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Lumber. I'm your host, Don Magruder, and you're listening to my 790 AM WLBE. And for watching us today, courtesy of LSTV, Lake Sumter Television, and Red Apples Media. We're having a fantastic conversation this afternoon with Angela Taylor. She's with the Frank Slaughter Insurance Agency. We're talking about homeowners insurance, about to get into some other insurances. But Angela, before we dive into other topics, I want to clean up this content conversation because before the break we started talking about insurance coverages on contents, and it's just amazing. It almost seems like you now have to document everything in your house to get covered. What are your thoughts about that?
Yes, if you have a loss, the insurance carrier is going to give you some paperwork and you have to substantiate what you've lost. You have to give them a list of what you've lost. It's very difficult to remember what you've lost when you've had a fire or when there's been a theft and you're having to use your memory. So what I like to suggest my customers do is to get an SD card or a video camera and take a quick video, making sure you hit your attic, all your closets. Take a quick video of all of your rooms in your home. That way, if you do have a loss, you can look back at the video and remember what was on that shelf or what was in that room that's no longer there. And then you can give the insurance carrier better information and get a better coverage.
Dumb question. If someone were to make a video or take pictures of valuables, when they went to their insurance agency and said, hey, I want to make sure I have coverage on these items, could they provide information at that time to their insurance agents for their collectibles list? Could they use that to build that list?
Okay, we're talking about two different things.
Okay.
If for collectibles to be scheduled on your policy, you can certainly show us those items, but a lot of times appraisals are required.
Okay.
Or collector's books. If I had a customer who brought me an SD card, I'd be happy to keep it for them in my file. I have a fire safe, I can keep it there. Or I suggest trading with neighbors maybe, so that it's in a safe spot. You certainly don't want to keep your backup at your home where the damage might occur.
And definitely if you're ever evacuating for a hurricane or
take it with you.
We've got a problem in the state of Florida, and we mentioned it earlier. It's a homeowner's insurance problem. Now, there's been no problem since Hurricane Andrew or 2004 when we had all the hurricanes at the state. But there's a lot of people theorize we're one major hurricane away from an insurance disaster. Tell our listeners why insurance has gotten so complicated and why getting policies written is just difficult. It's a real problem.
Yeah, well, 2004 was a real rude awakening.
Yep.
Because no one expected 4 storms. Since Andrew, they had prepared, they thought, for 1, but 4, no one had thought we'd be there. So we saw a lot of companies leave the state even when they found this out. That financially it's hard to make a profit here. So what we have is a bunch of new startup companies. They're Florida domiciled, meaning they don't have a big parent company. You don't see national companies anymore insuring homes here in Florida. I know of 2, and both of them, it's very tough to get a policy these days. So companies are underwriting, they're asking questions about roofs, they're asking questions, as you mentioned, about electrical boxes. They are underwriting your homes more stringently because they have to actuarially collect the right monies from you to cover your claim.
So that's a big problem for people who are buying and selling homes, doesn't all this fall under the Citizens group? Well,
Citizens is the insurer of last resort.
All right, explain that to us.
Okay. Obviously, there are people who cannot be insured. Let's say they've had several claims. They've had a couple fires.
Okay.
They've had a dog bite claim. Or they've had a sinkhole claim.
You mean a dog bite claim can...
Oh, absolutely.
A dog bite claim can knock your homeowner's insurance out.
Absolutely. That's
wow.
One of the biggest liability issues you have out there are the dogs.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. In fact, some time ago, the carriers stopped giving you full liability for it. You have to buy it back, and usually it's about a $50,000 coverage. Uh-huh. It's not the $300,000 or $500,000 coverage you used to have. So you have this group of people who cannot get insurance in the normal marketplace.
Okay.
They can go to Citizens.
And that's actually a quasi-state government thing.
It is, and it's has its problems. During the storms of '04, there were a lot of complaints, lots of people waiting in line for claim service. I'm talking years. I personally do not write with Citizens. If you are with Citizens and you're in Central Florida and you have not had a claims problem, you need to look elsewhere. You need to ask your agent why you're with Citizens, because usually there's a reason. At one time, mobile homes. A lot of people with mobile homes were being written in Citizens. And today we have markets that have opened up for them. They should not be in Citizens anymore.
Okay. So the problem with Citizens also, and you probably can't comment on this, is their viability. There's a real concern if we have a major hurricane. You know, I've heard the politicians say that if you have a major hurricane and with Citizens, there may be a circumstance where we would have to sell hurricane bonds to pay for the damage. The state wouldn't even have the money.
Absolutely. And if you look at your homeowner's policy or your auto policy, you're going to see taxes. You'll see a Citizens tax. You're going to see a guarantee fund tax, an emergency management tax, and that is all going to fill those coffers. Still, from damages caused in '04 and '06.
Let's talk a little difference about hurricane and fire coverage. And I know this from all my years on the Gulf Coast, and there's a big difference between hurricane and fire coverage. Can you explain to our listeners about that, Angela?
Yeah, let's call it hurricane and wind coverage.
Okay.
Okay. So you have hurricane season, which is June 1st through, I believe it's November 30th.
Right.
Okay. If you have a storm occur during that time,
A named storm,
and it's within certain geographic location of our state, and you have damage, meaning it does not have to cross the state, but it's say winds are so large that we get damage, that is subject to the hurricane deductible, which was introduced after Andrew in '92. It's typically 2% of what your dwelling's insured for, your coverage A. Let's say same scenario in March. We have a storm, a crazy storm, and we have damage. It is not during hurricane season. It's not named. You have your regular all other perils deductible you would use.
Okay, so for example, someone has a $250,000 house, and hurricane hits in Daytona. No, not even Daytona. Let's put it down in Brevard County, and a tornado spawns off. Mm-hmm. Hits your house.
2%, you have $5,000 hurricane deductible.
You're going to have a $5,000 hurricane deductible.
Correct.
And most people find it very difficult to understand that.
Yeah.
Okay, and then let's talk about the other thing that's sort of involved with this. FEMA's got new flood maps,
Mm-hmm.
got new flood insurance. There's a big deal with that now, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, April 1st, FEMA had rate increases. They also started requiring their policyholders to prove residency. So if this is your primary residency, you're surcharged $25. If it is your secondary residency, meaning you live in it less than 6 months per year, you're surcharged $250.
Now, one thing for Central Florida, and specifically Lake and Sumter County where we're at, the number of flood areas are not as great as the coast. Am I correct in that?
I would say so.
But there's still significant numbers around various tributaries, streams, and lakes. And the thing that's changed, and you tell me if I'm wrong, FEMA redrew the maps, and homes that were not in flood areas are now in flood areas.
Right, but that has all to do with technology being better.
Yeah.
They were able to take better maps. But what you need to understand, flood zones, it's the reverse of what we learned in school. A is the worst zone you can be in. B and C are the better zones. You can get a preferred rate. You don't have to get inspections for it. However, almost half the claims paid out through FEMA are in those less likely to flood zones.
Okay.
This isn't someone living on a river we're talking about. This is some freaky situation where rain drops feet of rain and it has nowhere to go.
Okay.
To go further, something people don't know. There is a definition of what flood is.
Okay.
And flood is either it is definitely a temporary condition of partial or complete inundation of 2 or more acres, which is normally dry land. So let's say you have a farm or you have a house on 10 acres. If you have damage, it has to be over 2 acres in flood damage. Or if you're in a neighborhood, say like the Villages, it would have to be you and another neighbor's home. It has to be 2 or more residences damaged for it to be a flood.
So, for example, say we get one of these Florida summers thunderstorms, and it drops 20 inches of rain, and you're somewhat in a low-lying home, but it floods every home in the street. That's then going to have to be covered under flood insurance?
Correct. The rising waters from outside is not covered on your homeowners. It would only be covered under flood.
And that's a big deal. And let's take a moment to really think about this. So a flooded street, 5 homes gets flooded from a 20-inch rain event in a 2-hour period, and you're in a low-lying area. They're going to call you up without flood insurance, and your answer is going to be what? If someone calls you up and have no flood insurance and their house is flooded, you're
not going to be able to help them. I mean, I will, of course, give them the phone number for FEMA, because there are people every year who have flood claims who don't have flood insurance. It's a government program, but you've got to buy the insurance.
So if you're in one of the flood zones, you need to buy insurance. How expensive is flood insurance, Angela?
Well, if you're in the preferred zone, the $250,000 layer, which is the highest you can get in the preferred zone, is $430 for a year. I recently insured a mobile home, which was in a flood zone, valued at $100,000, and that price was about $465 for a year.
But it's a necessary evil.
It is.
Once again, you're listening to Around the House, sponsored by Romac Lumber. We're having a great conversation with Angela Taylor. She's with the Frank Slaughter Insurance Agency out of Wildwood, getting some great information. Angela, we talk a lot about cost on insurance and how much insurance costs a year. A lot of people don't have $2,000 at one time to buy a home. Majority of people have mortgages, but those who don't have mortgages, they would prefer to buy monthly payments. Do they offer monthly payments on insurance, homeowners insurance, or anything like that? Or what's been your experience?
Well, the more established the insurance company, the more payment options they'll allow. Most carriers today will do 2-pay or 4-pay.
Okay.
I do have a few that do monthly. I will tell you, there's no discount for paying it in full. With auto insurance today, you get a nice discount if you pay it in full. You do not get a discount for paying your homeowner's insurance in full.
How can you tell if you've got a good homeowner's insurance policy? What type of rating should you be looking at?
Well, you have 2 financial companies that give ratings. You have AM Best, which is a fee for use site, and you have Demitech. What I have found with Demitech is they give majority of the carriers an A, so it's very hard to differentiate. You almost have to look at the assets the company has. You have to look at the reserves the company has. It's tough. I suggest throwing that responsibility back at your agent.
Okay.
Let them know, hey, I want to know that I have a financially firm, sound company, and I need you to explain that to me.
And once again, if you're buying it over the internet, you're not going
to have that.
Let me ask you about regular insurance versus replacement insurance. You always have a big discussion about that, and and some people look at insurance companies wanting to continuously increase replacement rates as a ploy to increase their insurance rates. Discuss that a minute with us.
Okay, well, the standard homeowner's policy, HO3, includes replacement cost on your home.
Okay,
so it's included. However, if your home is underinsured, you have something called a co-insurance clause, and you can be penalized during a loss. So if you only insured 80% of your home's value, it's only going to pay 80% of your claim, basically. What you can purchase is something called additional amounts of insurance. It is an additional endorsement allowed. It kind of gives you some padding should your home not be insured to value. And I encourage it on all my policies.
Okay. And once again, if someone has a question about these type of coverages, they can call Angela Taylor at Frank Slaughter Insurance Agency. What's your number again, Angela?
My number is 352-748-2221.
What can people do around their house to lower their insurance costs? Some quick things that could help to drive those costs down.
Okay, the biggest thing I find is when a consumer has a home that's older and they've had a roof replaced, but they did not report it to their agent, because that's a perfect scenario when a wind mitigation inspection could save them money on the wind part of their home.
Okay.
Another easy option would be looking at deductibles. Companies do offer higher deductibles. It's not going to save you a huge amount, but it is a savings. The third thing would be to look at an alarm system. I will tell you it will not save you as much as it costs, but it gives you a feeling of security, and you do save some on your homeowner's insurance.
Now, if something happens unfortunate and someone has to make a claim, what's the involvement of an independent agent like Frank Slaughter Insurance Agency? You know, you talk about the various things you can do, but say I have that accident or I have that fire, what's going to be your involvement?
Well, we try to get as involved as our carriers will allow us. So we ask our customers to call us, and unless it's a dire emergency, they call the carrier first. What we do is we like to check on them. We follow up with them in a week. I've had some situations where a claim was denied, and I talked to my customer, got involved a little bit, and found that there was coverage, and I had to go back to the company. I'm my customer's advocate. I'm not married to my company. I take care of my customer.
So you'll hold their hands through the process, because a lot of people, most people are nervous, they're scared, they don't know what to do, and so if they have a fire or a claim with their automobile insurance, they need to know someone's taking care of.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that's really when their agent's supposed to show their best face. They're there for that purpose.
Would you say that's one of the main reasons why someone should buy from a local agent versus an internet company?
That and the conversation. You can ask questions and in layman's terms have it explained to you.
You've talked a lot about the conversation, but obviously you find out, maybe I'm reading this wrong, but you're basically saying a lot of people don't understand what they have, and they need someone to sit down and go through their policy almost statute by statute and tell them what they have, or they're probably not going to have the coverage they think. Is that what you're finding out?
Yeah, the government has gotten involved, and you now have an insurance coverage section of your policy, and it's supposed to give it to you in layman's terms what you have. The biggest thing I encourage people to do is read it. So many of them get the mail, they pay the bill, but they don't look at the policy.
Okay.
And the insurance company is supposed to advise you of any changes they make in that package. We send out memos to our customers as well, but a lot of mail these days isn't opened.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I want to switch topics again. Let's talk about golf carts versus low-speed vehicles, some call golf cars. Now, I'm really confused about coverage. I've had people tell horror stories of not having proper coverage. Can you first define the difference between a golf cart and a low-speed vehicle or golf car?
Okay. A golf cart is a off-road vehicle. It usually goes less than 35 miles an hour. It's traditionally what we would use when we thought of playing golf. A low-speed vehicle is a vehicle that must be registered by the state of Florida. It needs to have a tag, and it must have auto insurance coverage. It's got to be put on your personal auto policy. That is pricey, because you're insuring a recreational item,
right,
as you would the vehicle you take to do all of your errands.
But there's also another issue. A golf car or a low-speed vehicle doesn't have the same safety benefits as a regular car.
Correct.
So does that add to the price?
No, but I will tell you, I see customers purchasing these low-speed vehicles because it's a golf cart type vehicle, gets them around a little faster, but they are paying the same price as they would for their sedan. And a lot of times I've seen customers purchase a low-speed vehicle, see how much it costs to pay the registration each year and the insurance, and then I've seen them have it converted to a golf cart.
Okay.
That's happening a lot.
All right. So for clarity's sake, if you're in a community that allows a golf cart and you're driving around, you should be okay?
No. The homeowner's policy today, it would cover you in a golf cart if you are on your grass in your yard.
Yep.
Or if you're on a golf green.
Okay.
It does not cover you to go to the golf course. It does not cover you to check your mail. A homeowner's company will offer you an endorsement for like $50 to $75 to put the golf cart on your homeowner's policy. It only covers you in your gated community. Now, in a place like the Villages, that's a really gray area. But I'm going to tell you, going to CVS outside of your gate is a gray area, and a company could by rights deny a claim. We recommend a golf cart insurance policy for anyone in a golf cart. It allows you also to purchase coverage you can't get on your home. It allows you to purchase medical payments for yourself, as well as uninsured motorist coverage should you be struck by your golf cart, in your golf cart.
And that's something probably more important than anything. For example, if you're in your golf car and you're on the road and someone drunk with no insurance hits you, that could be a big deal if you don't have proper coverage.
Oh yeah, and the only coverage you have is the uninsured motorist coverage.
Angela, can you assist people, or can most independent agents like yourself assist people if they're unsure what they have in their policy?
Mm-hmm. Or we can. In fairness, we need to see it, or they need to be able to read it carefully to us for us to know, because we want to see what they have, and then we can interpret it.
Okay, so once again, if someone had a question, what phone number could they call you at?
They could call us at 352-748-2221.
Now, to wrap this thing up on the golf carts, what happens if someone is out and about and they have the wrong insurance? For example, say they have insurance that would cover a golf cart, but not a low-speed vehicle or golf car, and they're at the Publix and they have someone hit them and they have an accident. What happens?
Well, what you're describing is a little confusing, because you are allowed to drive your golf cart at the Publix.
Okay.
It's how you got on it. If you crossed 466 in your golf cart, you're violating the law. You're not allowed to have a golf cart on 466. If you're in a low-speed vehicle, by law, you're supposed to have it registered and insured.
Okay.
And if you are not registered and insured and you're driving that low speed, even on a golf cart trail, by the way, a low-speed vehicle, if it's not registered and insured, then you are in violation. You're like driving your car that's been sitting there with no tag and no insurance.
Okay, so then you're in violation. So I guess if you have an accident, then you're in trouble.
You're driving without insurance. Absolutely.
I see you guys offer regular car insurance also. Talk a minute about the car insurance and some of the hoops and challenges these days in the car insurance market.
Well, auto insurance rates have been going up for some time. Every 6 months, every year, you're seeing your premiums increase. What I have been told in the various company meetings I've attended, the claims frequency is going down. Our vehicles are safer today. We have less claims. However, the claims are more expensive. A lot of that has to do with attorneys being involved in the claims.
Okay.
And what I'm being told is the consumer, the insured customer, is not seeing more money. It's because the attorneys involved. That's the main
source of their money.
Yeah, and this is where we're seeing rate increases go up. Also, the state of Florida does not require people to carry much coverage. So if you're driving down the road and I hit you, 50% of the customers out there either don't have coverage at all, or they have the minimum limits of $10,000, $20,000, and that won't even pay for me to take you in an ambulance to the hospital.
Okay, so if someone hits you and they have low coverage, what can you do to protect yourself? For example, say you're driving down the road, no fault of your own, someone pulls out and hits you. What can you do to protect yourself?
Well, in that situation, you have to have uninsured motorist coverage.
Okay.
In Florida. And what it is when you are a victim of a driver who either has no coverage or not enough coverage for your physical injuries, you can use it on your policy.
Is it mandatory you buy uninsured motorists?
No, it's not. It's mandatory I offer it to you.
Oh, it's mandatory you offer it?
Yes. If you reject that coverage, you must sign some legal forms rejecting it. But you're really, in the state of Florida, you have to take care of yourself.
How often do you have people reject it?
Frequently I do. I try to get them, if nothing else, to take a lower amount, so at least they have some coverage. Because what happens, if you're a victim in an accident and the guy that hit you has no coverage or has the low limits, most likely he doesn't have assets for you to go after if you need it. And if you're crippled from an accident and you need help, you're kind of stuck with your taking care of yourself because that guy has nothing.
Okay. If someone has a homeowner's policy or a car insurance policy or a golf cart policy and they're confused about it, and they want to talk to you about it, do they just bring their policies and pictures of what they got and have you look at it?
That, or if they're savvy, they can scan it and they can email it to us and we'll be happy to look at it for them. Absolutely.
As a local company, what can you do better than the national big guys? You know, the Frank Slaughter Insurance Company's been around half a century or more. What can you guys do better that these other guys can't do?
Well, first off, we don't work for an insurance company. We work for our customers. As an insurance agent, we have options for our customers. We stick with them through writing the policy, servicing the policy. When they have claims, we're there for them. Our experience with our service, it stays, remains when companies change. And that when you have a loss, you want a partner. You do want a partner. You don't want an 800 number and to be a number in their system. You want to be a person.
Well, Angela Taylor, we'd like to thank you for being part of the show. And once again, tell our listeners what's your phone number and where you can be contacted at.
Our phone number is 352-748-2221, and we're located at 820 South Main Street in Wildwood, right off of 44.
Well, it's undoubtedly the insurance market, homeowners insurance, golf cart insurance, and the car market has gotten extremely complicated. And someone like Angela Taylor can give you good advice. And I suggest you talk to your insurance agents. You know, there's plenty of great agents around here.
Absolutely.
And once again, we'd like to thank you for watching Around the House. Be sure to join us every Monday from noon to 1 and catch Around the House, they call them, in the daily commercials on Saturday and the South Lake Press on Wednesday. Until next week, we will see you around the house.